going to cover everything that happened in the last 2 weeks. So, yeah, the Resistance Bureau was working for these past 2 weeks, and we'll get you caught up to date with everything that happened. We start, as always, with our maps here. The focus, of course, is always on the battlefield in the Resistance Report, but as Nora ably describes in the introduction, the attacks are all over the Gaza Strip. They're not just on the battlefield. They attack civilians. The Israeli military attacks civilians all over Gaza. So there's your map of the whole of the Gaza Strip. We're going to focus on the north today, Jabalia in particular. But there's operations, as you can see, there's still operations along the Philadelphia corridor here in Rafah. The 5-month operation in Rafah from May to October wrapped up. And the 162nd Division moved from Rafah to besiege Jabalia in the north. And I covered that at the time when they did that. But there is still part of a division along the Philadelphia corridor continuing to do the carving of this corridor and positioning military forces in military outposts along the Philadelphia corridor. So that is still going on in Rafah. Of course, we know that 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐿 was killed in Tel Sultan, right on the edge of the Philadelphia corridor. So there's still activity in Rafah, but we'll move up north in particular, and we're going to focus on Jabalia and the Jabalia refugee camp, which is north of Jabalia there that you see. That's the city of Jabalia. And I just wanted to bring a couple notes in while we're talking about the United States. The Brown University Costs of War Project released a report while we were away that detailed the amount of military aid that the U.S. has given to Israel to carry out this genocide. And they put the number at $23 billion just in this year alone. And that $23 billion does not include the multi-billion-dollar defense of Israel and Iran in the Iran arena, as well as the attack that the U.S. facilitated for Israel on Iran, both multi-billion-dollar operations. It does not include United States force posture in the region, which we know is heavy all throughout the region, particularly their deployments of aircraft carriers. These deployments are tens of billions of dollar deployments. We're just talking about $23 billion in aid to Israel so that they can buy weapons from the United States to use in this war. It does not include the Iran front, as I said. It does not include future arms sales. And we know we've seen throughout the course of the last year dozens of future arms sales that total in the tens of billions of dollars for each one of the sales, 50 fighter jets in one time, these kind of deals. So that's just an unbelievable amount of money that is given to Israel to fight this war, on top of all of the diplomatic and international legal cover that Craig so well described in the beginning, and then Ali's segment on the way that the Trump administration and the Biden administration protect Israel through this campaign. That's just a staggering amount of money. And I just want to say that Jabalia, I have given you guys over the course of this year, we'll remember back in December, Jabalia the Israelis said they had completely dismantled all three of the battalions of the 𝐶AM brigades in Jabalia. At the time, in December, on this program, we said that that was not true. It was obviously not true. And then in May, again, the Israelis invaded the camp again. At that time, they destroyed 70% of the camp. We'll remember back in May, that was when we saw a soldier get captured in a tunnel. We still have not heard anything about who that person was that we saw get dragged into a tunnel by 𝐶AM. But there was a major raid in May. And this is now the third major raid on Jabalia, which is a center of resistance in the Gaza Strip. Historically, it's a benchmark, a landmark place of battle. It's where the First Intifada began and where it raged for the 3 to 5 years of that period of uprising. It began in Jabalia. Jabalia was the center of the second Intifada, and its fighting capabilities in Jabalia were very critical components in the Israelis leaving the Gaza Strip in 2005 because of the resistance in Jabalia. So just to point those things all out. And we remember that the Israelis said that the reason that they were going back into Jabalia was because in the shelters, the school shelters and the hospital courtyards, they were being used for people to come and pick up food stamps, to come and pick up humanitarian equipment, and to come and report crime. So that's the level of government apparatus that the Israelis are erasing at this point in the battle. They're not. This is the genocide. This is the genocide 2.0. This is them looping back on what has already been a heinous year, an unspeakable year, as Nora said, is just correct word. We don't even know what to say about it. But this last 5 weeks in Jabalia has been next level horror. They're literally erasing Jabalia and the north. And that is their project. If we look at this next map, this is a map. This is a disgusting map that was drawn on the back of a napkin by a commander in the 162nd Division to Army radio that said that this is what they were doing in this operation. The reporter he reports, this time there is no intention to allow the residents of the northern Gaza Strip to return to their homes, and that humanitarian aid will regularly enter in the southern Gaza Strip. There are no more civilians left north of Gaza City. That is a flat lie. There's hundreds of thousands of people left. They did not, when they were, Israel took over the shelters. We saw that. Took over the hospitals. We saw that. Emptied out the hospitals, emptied out the shelters, arrested 1,000 people, and then they burned the shelters. They burned the hospital courtyard. And they said that they were pushing people to the south. The people in Jabalia did not go to the south. The number in the entire time of the last 6-week operation that have gone south is a handful of people. The people in Jabalia are internally displaced around the area. They moved. We saw them the other day. They had a demonstration chanting "Death before dishonor," marching in protest through Jabalia. The people of Jabalia are not going to move. But this is what the Israelis are saying. And I think we just have to point this out before we get into the resistance, which was fierce this week. And there's a lot of excellent combat videos to show you. But I just want to read you from this. So the commander that made that napkin map, which is for people who read Hebrew, you'll see that it's not even geographically accurate. But he said he put this line through. He called it the blue demarcation line. The Division 162 is stationed on this blue demarcation line and is actually close to the purification of the entire northern area of the Gaza Strip: Beit Hanun, Beit Lahia, Jabalia camp, and Jabalia to the south of it. It's completely not true, but that's what they're talking about. An IDF commander to Army radio describing what is going on as purification, as ethnic cleansing. And that's the goal. That's the goal that the Israelis are doing. And we saw the way that they exacted that goal was to clear all the shelters were cleared out. Anyone over the age of 13 years old, boys 13 years old to 60-year-old men, had their hands tied behind their back, stripped to their underwear, blindfolded, and put in the courtyard. Nora talked about the doctors that were arrested. There's children in that, middle school children in that group of people. And then the Israelis burned the shelter, literally scorched earth. And that is the way that they're carrying out this operation in Jabalia. And that same IDF commander said that they have been getting fierce resistance, as we're going to show you. He said more than 50 IEDs against them, more than 200 booby-trapped buildings. The Israeli military has admitted to, and surely there's more, 26 plus killed in action, including, as we remember, the commander of the 401st Armored Brigade, this most senior commander killed in the war. So that is the setup for what the resistance that we're about to see. Israel talking about cleansing and purifying the north. that they're almost done completing dismantling for the third time 𝐶𝐤𝐿. And let's watch from these videos and see if that's actually what's happening. Video number 1 here. These fighters are, this is an interesting little tidbit here. This fighter's showing this other fighter how to test the fidelity of the wires for the 𝐓𝐡𝐞 EFP. And they're speaking in a way, we dropped the audio, of course, to try to keep these videos online. But he's describing how to do that. So we're seeing fighters being trained in these videos, very subtly being trained in these videos. So once it's rigged up, this fighter's saying on camera, he's saying this operation is in honor of the soul of our martyr, Commander Ayman Mansour. Now, Ayman Mansour was original. There you see they're using the backup camera again. Ayman Mansour was an original leader of the 𝐶𝐤𝐿 original cells that were founded by Yahya Sinwar. And he was part of those cells. He rose up through the ranks, was a senior commander. He's from Jabalia. He was a senior commander who was killed. He ended up becoming the deputy commander of the Northern Division. We see the 𝐓𝐡𝐞 there, detonated, hand detonated, not tripwire, because that's the thing the fighters were talking about. Maybe we can loop it around one more time tomorrow, because they talk about how they don't want to do a tripwire. They want to press the button themselves, and that's why you see the reverse camera being used. But Ayman Mansour rose up through the ranks of 𝐶𝐤𝐿 and became the deputy of the Northern Division of 𝐶𝐤𝐿, deputy to Ahmed Gandour, who was killed in the beginning of the war. Ayman Mansour and his eldest son were assassinated by a collaborator in the summer before the war, and the collaborator committed suicide. It was like a criminal type collaborator action. And these fighters are saluting that. We always bring you that. These fighters salute. This is one of 75 qualitative operations that happened since you last saw me at the resistance desk telling you about the battles. And so you see these fighters, they don't want a tripwire. That's the detonator for the 𝐓𝐡𝐞 right there. You see a Merkava tank through the backup camera. We're going to see that a couple times in this. But you can see the direct line that's connected right under the tank. And then they're watching from this closed circuit camera using a second camera that's the reverse camera. So we're seeing these things. We've seen these things all through the war. But the way Israel described that to Army radio in my introduction, you'd think that the place was empty and there's no resistance left and there's no people left. It's completely not true. They're intending to commit genocide and erase, ethnically cleanse the population, but it's not happening. Number 2 is a tunnel-borne operation. 𝐶𝐤𝐿 is able to still battle above and below ground, still able to coordinate above and below ground. They see a Humvee here, so we just have an RPG-7, a single round, not a tandem charge Yasin. Again, appropriate weapons. You don't need a tandem charge to hit the thinner-skinned Humvee that you're going to see. We're seeing 2 camera angles here because another fighter comes out. There's the Humvee up at the top there getting the triangle. You can see, and then that's shot by the fighter that comes out of the tunnel. And now we're going to see a second shot here. That's the body cam of the archer himself. And you can see there's a tank beside the Humvee. But because of the weapon he's got, he's firing on the Humvee. And then again, professional fighters, both down under the ground, immediately escaping. You can see the detonation. You can see the round hit on those. So these tunnel operations are just incredible because you literally see him come out of the ground. Sometimes they show you when they're just on the ground crawling, and I tell you that that's a tunnel-borne operation. But on these ones, you know for sure that it's a tunnel-borne operation because you literally see their heads coming out of the tunnel. And two of them go back into the tunnel safely after firing on this Humvee. This is one of 2 Humvees that was hit throughout the course of that 75 operations that went, qualitative operations that happened this week. And you can see the way that the warhead is painted. It's not clear. There's a couple more examples I'm going to show you throughout this that seem to indicate they're they're manufacturing weapons in Jabalia since the May operation. And you can see safely through the tunnel. Number 3, this is going to be a 𝐓𝐡𝐞 strike. And again, see the warhead there? That's a newly lathed warhead. That is not painted black like their previous ones. They're using what they have, but they're apparently able to lathe these and manufacture these in the course of the war. So this is 2 for 2. That they have made these weapons. You can hear in the audio of this track, if you want to go to my Twitter, you can hear them talking, the Hebrew soldiers, the soldiers speaking in Hebrew. And this is a strike, a direct strike on the crew compartment. They go back down in the tunnel of the crew compartment, which holds 10 soldiers on this 𝐓𝐡𝐞 troop carrier, which is not as heavily up armored as a non-armored troop carrier. So this is likely a devastating blow. The Israelis, like I said, 26 plus admitted. Almost all of them they have said were from anti-tank fire. So this is what you're seeing: anti-tank fire hitting this 𝐓𝐡𝐞, which is an older. These were the troop carriers that they used in the Second Intifada, and the fighter again goes down in the tunnel. 𝐓𝐡𝐞 strikes against 7 APCs, 4 tanks, 2 Humvees, and 13 D9s. So the next one, number 4 here, we're going to see this is southeast of the Jabalia camp. This is going to be a troop carrier again. We see the fighters moving through these destroyed buildings that have no military purpose, destroying the place like this. Look at all through that camera shot. Absolutely no military purpose to leaving these camouflaged positions from which the soldier can fire. And if you look at the precursor on that tandem 85, you can see that it's milled. It hasn't been painted at all. So they add the second charge, the precursor charge, to make it a tandem, and they fire it and direct hit. Again, no interception by the APS of that tank. You can see that's a direct hit on the roof. So interesting. And then I just have the still picture that we were going to show you here of the round in flight, because 𝐓𝐡𝐞 gave us that, the tandem charge. So that's the tandem 85. That's not the 𝐓𝐡𝐞 105. And the precursor charge has been just made, because you can see the milling, the lathing, not the milling, but the lathe markings on it, and it's still silver. So another qualitative operation. Number 5 here is a 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐿 sniper, again using the 𝐓𝐴𝐽 or the 𝐓𝐡𝐻 50 cal, made after the 𝐓𝐡𝐻 50 cal, the Austrian anti-material rifle that we've seen. The 𝐓𝐴𝐽 is an upgrade on that weapon. It's difficult to tell without seeing the markings which one exactly we're looking at here, but it's an 𝐓𝐴𝐽 for all intents and purposes. And again, this one required a little bit of editing to make sure that this video stays up. If YouTube's listening, we edited out the video. These videos are all PG. So the soldier, you're going to see him, the tank crewman, he's going to emerge here out of the top of his Merkava. 𝐓𝐴𝐽 gives us a triangle and a bullseye on him. This was a successful sniper operation, but we left the edit at that. That was one of 2 sniper operations since you saw me last. Number 6 is another qualitative operation. This is a 2-stage operation using a backup camera. Again, the 𝐶assam fighters are going to fire a thermobaric warhead into the house where the Israeli troops are to chase them out of the house. And I had to edit out the walking, but there's 4 troops that walk just before that explosion. 4 troops walk out, 4 triangles. You watch the 4 triangles walk out to the behind, and the fighter sees them and he goes, here they are, detonate, detonate. And the second guy goes, hold on, just wait. And then he waits for the 4th guy to go, and then he detonates it. Again, using a reverse camera to get the job done. The Israelis admitted 3 killed in this operation, 1 seriously wounded. As you can see, you can't see, you can see it on my Twitter, but I cut out the 4 soldiers walking to the tank so that we can keep these videos up. So you didn't see any of that. Just a remarkable operation, 2-stage operation, setting the device in a place that the tank is going to go to bring troops into that building that the troops are taking over. You flush them out of the building with an anti-personnel thermobaric warhead, and they run out of the building because it's an explosive charge, and then they walk right into that tank that is prepared already with the 𝐄𝐤𝐿. So remarkable operation and significant 𝐄𝐤𝐿 charge there. Possible barrel bomb that we're looking at there. Which a barrel bomb can just be filled up with unexploded Israeli ordnance. They can just put high explosives from an unexploded 2,000-pound bomb, and they can literally just pour it into a barrel and make it that size. However much you can carry can be the size of it. So a remarkable operation. This is all happening in Jabalia, where they're telling you that they have dismantled 𝐓𝐡𝐞. We're seeing all these different types of operations. Number 7 is another interesting one. So these guys are, again, going to set up the wiring. They want to be pressing the button. They don't want, they can set up tripwires. As the Israelis said, there's 50 tripwire booby-trapped IEDs and 200 booby-trapped houses. But here we're going to see, you see the 𝐄𝐤𝐿 there on the EFP is in that bag. The bulldozer here, the D9, is towing a disabled Namr troop carrier that was blown up in battle. So he's dragging it along this route. And the fighters pass on the D9. They pass on the Namr because the Namr is probably empty. And also then he's got a tank escort here, a Merkava tank escort. So 3 choices there, and they chose the tank. Possibly could have chose, if you're going to Monday morning quarterback these incredible fighters that we've been watching for 13 months do everything right, it seems. You might have gone after the D9 first because the D9s have been used, and the D9s have been most targeted by 𝐓𝐡𝐞 in this operation because it's a genocidal operation in Jabalia. They're pushing down the buildings that are left standing. The buildings that are left standing that have been blown up, Israel's going around with their D9s and tipping them over. And so you can see that in the statistics, 12 tanks, 2 APCs, 2 D9s. But with Yassins, 13 D9s have been hit with Yassins, which is more than tanks and APCs combined. So they are picking on the engineering vehicles. In this case, they might have believed that they had more soldiers in the compartment. But these tanks, the one thing that the Merkava has is really thick underbelly armor. And that is also because of 𝐓𝐡𝐞. Roadside bombs, as they used to be called, the bomb where you bury it in the road and you could bury massive amounts of explosives. During the Second Intifada, the 𝐓𝐡𝐞 brigades got half a dozen Merkava tanks, blew them to pieces, and Israel immediately retrofitted the underbelly to protect against those operations. But still, you can see the fighters operating in all these different kind of ways in Jabalia in the face of the genocide. So that is the resistance report for the battle in Jabalia. It is going on fierce. And as I said, let me just give you the last numbers for it. 75 operations, 3 booby traps, 2 sniper operations, 5 thermobaric warheads fired from Yassins at troop positions, 7 close quarters battles, 5 IEDs, 2 fragmentation warheads versus troops, 5 IEDs versus troops, 7 close quarters battles versus troops. And then with the 𝐄𝐤𝐿s, 12 tanks, 2 APCs, 2 D9 with 𝐄𝐤𝐿 EFPs. With the Yassins, 4 tanks, 7 APCs, 2 Humvees, 13 D9s, just since you last saw me. So they're fighting heavily in the Jabalia camp.